Carrie, you are now up. Are you ready to go?
I'm always ready to go on this topic. So, hey guys, if any of y'all were at PIP and got to participate in our breakout on advocacy, I'm glad you're joining us again today. But for many of you, maybe this is your first time hearing me talk about this. This is something, honestly, y'all, I really love to talk about. I enjoy going to the Capitol and talking with state agency folks about the amazing work that y'all are doing. And I just want y'all to also join me because y'all really have stories worth telling. So by a show of hands, before we jump in here, it could be a show of hands or maybe the thumbs up if you don't want to come on camera. How many of you have been to the Capitol before? Okay, all right, Julie, I see you, Brooke, all right, Andrea, all right, I see several hands here, okay. How many of you have participated in a site visit at, wherever it is you're working, you've maybe had a representative come out and see what you guys do. Has anybody participated that on your team? All right, Julie over at Safe, all right, Adriana, okay, I see some hands. And again, for those of you that don't want to be on camera, I totally get it. If you want to participate with a thumbs up, please do. And then for folks that maybe didn't engage on that, I'm wondering, maybe like thinking through, okay, well, maybe the legislator thinks the harder part, right? But how many of you have talked to maybe your boss, a friend, a coworker, someone just that because you want to talk to them about a challenge that you faced at work, perhaps a success story for a family you've been working with? How many of you, I imagine we're going to have some show of hands, have done something like that? Okay, all right. I see Susie over there with her hand up. Okay, all right. Well, even if you didn't raise your hand, all of you are advocates. You're advocating, whether it's to lawmakers, to state agencies, to your boss, to just whoever in your communities, because you guys know what's going on there. And so I just, you guys are always the ones that we're looking to for solutions. You guys go to bat for your families, and you guys make your communities better. So all of you are advocates, whether you realize it or not, and all of you have a story to tell. So let's jump in here and do a little bit of context setting. So Brianna, if you can go to the next slide. Okay, I think some of you are probably familiar with this image. We've had this in some of our presentations. And as you all know, really the way that we are thinking about and talking about prevention is becoming broader. With the passage of Senate Bill 24 last session, there's really a shift in what it looks like to strengthen families. And whether we're talking about evidence-based programs like a lot of the things you guys do, or concrete supports that you guys also provide to families to meet basic needs, those things can strengthen families and ultimately help a family avoid crisis. And that includes not only those of you grantees on this call providing supports like home visiting, those of you on here that also run family resource centers and help me grow sites. It's also childcare providers. It's folks in the education system. It's your local churches in your community and so on. So ultimately, we all have a part to play in strengthening families and keeping families together. And that brings me to the next slide, which is about why your voice matters. I think there can be a tendency, and honestly, had you met me 10 years ago, I would have been in this category. There's a tendency to think that folks that go to the Capitol, those with, policy or government relations or lobbyists or something in their title, that those are the ones that are down at the Capitol. And while that's true, that is the reality. The real reality is that lawmakers want to hear from you all. Y'all are the ones doing the work. Y'all are the ones that are ultimately going to be and are impacted by the decisions that they make. They represent you. So how can they know what is and isn't working if they're not hearing from folks in their community? So they need to hear from you. And so let's go to that next slide, Brianna. I do want to spend a little bit of time here. So first and foremost, if you ever need to be reminded of this, I will very happily remind you all and be your cheerleader. Y'all are the experts, y'all. You know your families, you know your programs, you know the challenges, you know the strengths. So you guys, that is why folks want to hear from you at the Capitol. That's why your legislators want to hear from y'all, because y'all are the ones that are in the know. And I also just want to remind y'all that if you get to meet with your lawmaker, they're just human, just like you. They've got families, they've got issues that they're working through. They've got challenges. They wake up on the wrong side of the bed on some mornings too. So just remember, like, I just don't want that to be intimidating to you guys, because I know sometimes it can be like, man, I'm meeting with this elected official that, I feel like kind of intimidated here. Don't be. They want to hear from you guys, and they wouldn't know things any other way. So, this is just their side gig. I don't know if you guys know that. That is just something, being a lawmaker is just like a part-time job for them. So another thing I would just, talk about here is, just like everything in our work, connections and relationships matter. So take the time to get to know the staff that are in your district and your lawmakers. And that could look like researching how they voted on your issue. They love being thanked, y'all. They love it. Like, some praise thrown their way of like, hey, thanks so much for supporting that 65 million we got last session. Thanks so much for speaking up on this, because we want to continue to do more home visiting programs, things like that. Thank them. They love that. I also would say, time and effort matters. I know that there's like some numbers. I forget, like, is it like 7 or 8 times you've got to meet with somebody before like that trust is built and things like that. And so, continue. It's not just a one and done thing. Maybe you meet with them in their district office, and you invite them to come out so they can see the work that you all are doing, see the site that you guys have, see the different things that y'all do throughout the day, and meet different staff on your campus. So, I think that, that's another way to do it. Email them. If y'all's program is highlighted in the news, send them an article and say, hey, just wanted to make sure you saw this. Or, if there's some sort of need, and that's highlighted in social media or whatever, I think it's just about, it's very relational, and building those relationships. You want them to remember your name. You want to build that trust, so that they are looking to you as a resource. And I was trying to think of something else that already slipped my brain. Oh, I was gonna say that another good thing too, just think of, again, I just kind of always go back to, um, think of what you appreciate in conversations and relationships with people. You want somebody to relate to you. You want somebody to speak your language, right? Like, you want somebody, if you're not a cat person and somebody's talking about how you need to go get a cat, you're not gonna really enjoy that conversation, right? I know this is a weird example to give, but I just am bringing that up because, we want to connect with them. We want to connect the issue to them and show that, like, we've actually like tried to get to know them, tried to see what matters to them, and things like that. The next thing you see on here is about managing expectations. My team knows this about me. I'm big on expectation management. So I just want to say, just time is usually very little time that you have with folks, whether it's the lawmaker themselves, or whether it's their staff. The most time you're going to get is a site visit, because they're obviously doing the tour with you and things like that. So that's always a great route to go, and it's in their district. But if you are, let's say you're like, yes, Carrie, I want to go down to the Capitol, and I want to go and talk with folks and make sure they know about our program and the things that we need. So I would say, don't be surprised if you're meeting with a staffer, and not the legislator whenever you're down at the Capitol. And also, y'all, don't be surprised if they're in their younger 20s. Y'all, a lot of staff is very young. I know for folks that don't go to the Capitol a lot, they may not realize that that's what you're going to be meeting. You think, oh gosh, there's got to be somebody that's been here for decades. A lot of the time it's new staff, and you're doing a lot of the educating. Sometimes you're lucky and you get to meet with the person that's staffing the lawmaker on the issue area specific to what you want to talk about. But a lot of the times you might be meeting with an intern. And so don't feel like that's lesser than. They're going to take notes. They're going to pass that along, and please be nice to them. Just so y'all know, like, a lot of lawmakers that are in the building right now, they used to be interns, they used to be staffers, and they remember those things. So just, be helpful, be kind, all those things, like, that we do in our work day in and day out anyway. If you're providing testimony, I, again, don't want anybody to feel intimidated by that, but if you are providing testimony, you only get like 2 to 3 minutes. So again, you're probably picking up that there's not a lot of time. So you want to make your time meaningful. You want to go in with a game plan, and you want to be prepared. You'll want to think through data that you want to share. You're going to want to think ahead of time of a story you want to highlight. You will want to go in and not just complain about an issue, but actually present a solution. You want to offer yourself as a resource. They love that stuff, right? Hey, I reach out to me if you've got any questions. They're going to have questions. So you want to show that you're going to be helpful. This is really y'all's time to shine. So, just be yourselves. That's something else I would say too. And the other thing, I know we keep talking, I keep using this, like, you have a story to tell, that kind of language. And for those of you that maybe haven't heard me introduce like my background, I used to work in the Senate. I was a staffer, and I heard from all kinds of lobbyists, folks like me in my position now. And don't get me wrong, some of them represented really good causes, and obviously, like, I would listen to them, my boss would listen to them. But do y'all know what really stuck out and what really like stuck in my boss's brain the most? It was the stories that you guys told. It was he recognized, and lawmakers recognize, that they represent you guys, and it's pulling at those heartstrings, because that's what they remember. Everybody's coming at them with data, and not to belittle data, that's absolutely needed. What they remember, though, are the stories, the things that they can just kind of put a face with the name potentially, and be able to hear those stories, because that's what sticks. Because telling a story is about connecting, and making the issue real for them. It's about weaving in that data with highlighting a story that sticks in their memory. And y'all are the ones with those stories. So if y'all, let's see, Brianna, go to the next slide. I think we've got this in there. Yeah. So this is a resource that TexProtects had put out several years ago. I think you can still find it on our website. I promise there isn't a quiz on this, and I promise I'm not going to go through every step. But what I'm doing is I just want you guys to see that there's a process. Just like everything, there's a process. But ultimately, I think sometimes, especially if you haven't engaged with the legislative process before, it can kind of go like, but didn't we just do this? Or wasn't this repetitive? Didn't we just kind of do this part, just a few weeks ago? There's, obviously you've got a House and a Senate, so it is a little repetitive, but there's some nuance to it. And so, guys, if we're reaching out to you guys saying, hey, we'd really love for you to talk with your lawmakers, we'd love for you to talk to the committee, those kinds of things, I promise we're not just trying to keep you busy to keep you busy. It's just because there is a process, and there's a lot of people to convince along the way. And then, so not only am I wanting you to see from that slide that there's different places to engage, I want y'all to know that there's different ways to engage. So right here, you can see several different things. The reason why I'm pointing that out is not everybody loves public speaking, and that's okay. So maybe you're one of those folks that's like, yes, call me up. I'm ready to go testify in front of the committee. I want my 2 to 3 minutes to talk about my families. Great. But there's also folks, if you're just like, that feels a little too scary for me, you can reach out to your legislator via email. You can do the old-fashioned way, send in a letter. You can make phone calls to their staff. There's just different ways that you can communicate with them. And also there's ways to get involved on social media. That could look like whenever we put out different groups and us put out like advocacy alerts, or maybe it's just something that, you're promoting about your organization on whether it's Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, talking about the great work that you guys are doing. But there's definitely ways to engage that way. And then, of course, y'all have heard me talk about you could meet with them in your district. You come down to the Capitol. I know, coming to Austin may not be the easiest thing for several people in different parts of the state, but that's why they have district staff. So I don't want you to feel like they're inaccessible to you guys. And then, like I said, last but not least on this one is testifying. There's different ways to testify as well. Even with COVID, the legislature opened up some different ways, like in the House, there's actually a portal. So you can do it right from your remote office from home, or there's ways to do it that way. Again, email, there's ways that you can, if you don't want to testify verbally, but you want to come to Austin, you can submit something in writing. There's just a lot of different ways to engage. So hopefully that kind of gets you guys excited about like, okay, maybe you see yourself somewhere in here. Brianna, yeah, so looking at the time here, I wanted to give us a few minutes here. This is an activity. Again, this is about, I want you guys to go in prepared. You heard me say, let's have a game plan. This is the start of that. Different folks on this call, you may be the government relations people. And so, I want you to think through these questions, and think about, who it is on your teams that you would want to call upon. Some of you on this call are the ones on the ground seeing the families. Y'all are the parent educators. And you guys may be thinking like, okay, I do want to kind of sit through and think through this stuff, but this prompts you to kind of think through some of those things, like what data would you want to highlight? What strengths do we want to talk about? What are the challenges and how to lay that out? But ultimately, like I said, you don't get a whole lot of time and you want to make the most of your time. So if we could maybe take, let's see, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. I'd love for you guys to start, like whether it's typing it out on your notes on your phone, whether it's writing it down in your planner or something like that. I just would love for y'all to do this because I think this gets your brain thinking about how you can engage in this process. So we'll kind of I would love to be able to do breakouts, but I know we're not there.
Carrie, what if you allow folks to share what they're thinking?
Yeah, let's do that. Does anybody want to, like, when you've heard us talk about this, does this feel like something you're interested in doing? Do you have questions about the process that you want to bring up? Anybody have anything? For those of you, a few of you raised your hand about coming down to the Capitol. Would anybody want to, talk about their experience and what you did, whether that was testify, whether that was meet for like in an office? Does anybody want to share?
Hi, Carrie. This is Persephone, and I'm sorry I'm not on camera. I have been ill, so I'm not a sight to look at. Uh, but I did want to share just two things. We always appreciate your voice in this platform, and you've been a great support to Texas parents as teachers. Last year at our leadership summit, Carrie came and presented advocacy on a statewide view alongside our national models director of policy. So it was just such a welcome presentation. I think people really gravitated to the information you provided. The responses were just amazing. Following the presentation, we actually did an evaluation asking about, some of these things. What are the strengths? Are you interested in being an advocate, being a part of an advocacy go team for Texas parents as teachers? And probably 90% of those responses were affirmative, that they were not only interested, but also wanted to participate in whatever way they could, whether that was being, a mouthpiece in person at the Capitol or writing letters. So our staff has moved forward with creating this advocacy go team, and in January we're going to be kicking that off. And so I just wanted to thank you for all that you continue to share with Texas parents as teachers in the way of advocacy. I will also sidestep and say that my introduction to my position with Texas parents as teachers was an invite to the Capitol to testify regarding Senate Bill 24. And so it was an amazing experience. That was my first time to be able to provide testimony, and I think I probably got a really unique experience in that it moved very slowly. I was at the Capitol bright and early in the morning at 7 a.m. to register. And, as the day kind of unfolded, there were hopes that, we would be heard sooner than later. But at around midnight, finally, I was able to get up to the podium. And it was just a wonderful experience. A long day, exhausting for sure, but wonderful to see advocates, letting their voices be heard. And if it did nothing else, it was proof to me that more people need to be present in that space to advocate on behalf of children and families. And so I appreciate the opportunity that you've provided. I always appreciate our National Center support. We look forward to continuing to partner with TexProtects in this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Persephone. And y'all, I will just say, and I think Persephone, you would agree, we're fun to be with at the Capitol. We have some
amazing fun. Absolutely.
even if it's a long day, which not all days are, we are a fun crew. Ainsley, I think you have your hand raised. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, yes, I'm Ainsley Berber with the United Way of Central Texas. I'm newer to the advocacy role, but I was just wondering, you mentioned previously about praising them for the bills or things that they kind of had voted on. What's the best way to stay up to date on all of the things that they're discussing, things that they're voting on?
So a few things come to mind. I don't know if you guys have a government relations person on y'all's team, like I'm thinking like Persephone that just spoke up. And then obviously the United Ways of Texas, you've got your staff there that can also help, but please lean on us as well. Always please feel free. We are tracking bills internally. So if you've got a question about any sort of history, our expectation is not that you guys become experts on Texas legislature online, things like that. But that is a tool if you're interested, but please reach out if you've got some questions like, hey, I'm about to go meet with my legislator. What should I highlight? We would be more than happy to help you with that.
Thank you so much.
Esther, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, Carrie. For those who haven't met, we haven't met rather. I'm Esther and I'm the coordinator for the Dallas County Child Death Review. So I do love this question, Carrie. I have some ideas on data that I would like highlighted. What we've been seeing the last year is continued suicides among children in schools as young as 9 years of age. Yes. So our team has been discussing as to how we can lobby on this. We do not have much experience. It does seem overwhelming to the team. So that would be data I would be willing to share what we have for the Dallas County. The strengths I would like shared is what teachers and counselors are trying to do in schools to prevent these suicides as well as avert crisis. And the challenge I want to share that I know they're facing from meeting with them is they're really understaffed and they do not have the funds to hire more staffing to accommodate all the crises that are happening day in, day out in schools. That's all I have to share for now. I do have some stories. I think they might be a little bit too morbid for this meeting, and too confidential, but yes, that's my answer to this question.
Well, Esther, I'm going to kind of demonstrate here what this could look like. I know a little bit more publicly, but so Esther, I know you guys do some incredible, like sad, but incredible work. But when you were talking, something that came to mind for me, there is a Texas Suicide Prevention Network that they work on policies related to preventing suicide. And so like, I would love to connect you with them. And, I don't know what their legislative priorities are this session as they go in, but I'm just thinking of how great of a resource you would be for them. And you might be able to go alongside them and advocate at the Capitol. But that's where knowing those stories and working alongside other folks that are also working on those